The vote and the warning. The Grand Galactic Assembly Hall gleamed with artificial splendor, its vast crystalline dome housing representatives from over 300 stellar civilizations. Massive holodisplays floated above the central podium, currently showcasing the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, a world of swirling blue oceans and green-brown landmasses. Earth. Ambassador Sophia Chen stood alone on the speaking platform, her simple Navy diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the ornate regalia adorning the alien delegates surrounding her. Her expression remained neutral as whispers and sneers rippled through the assembly. Unlike most species present, humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 40 years ago, making them newcomers to the galactic stage. Grand Speaker Volith, a 7-foot-tall Arcturian with iridescent scales and 4 primary eyes, raised his ceremonial staff. The hall fell silent. "We have deliberated on petition G7729 regarding the status of Sol 3, designation Earth," Volith announced, his translator converting his whistling speech to standard galactic common. "The Security Council has determined that this species represents an unacceptable expansion risk and requires immediate supervision." Ambassador Chen's expression didn't change, though her hands clasped slightly tighter behind her back. The Assembly will now vote on Resolution 442, the immediate placement of Earth under protected resource status, with mandatory labor quotas and technological restrictions. Volith's secondary eyes blinked slowly at Chen. "Ambassador, you may offer final arguments before the vote." Chen stepped forward, her movements precise and unhurried. When she spoke, her voice carried throughout the chamber without shouting. "Honored representatives of the Assembly, I stand before you as Earth's voice. For 40 years, we have observed your customs, followed your regulations, and offered friendship. Today, you propose to classify my people, the 11 billion sentient beings, as a resource to be harvested." A derisive hoot came from the Krell delegation, a warrior species known for their conquest of 12 worlds. "The humans have barely mastered rudimentary warp travel," called out Supreme Commander Grakthar. "Their weapons are primitive. Their colonies number only 3. They should be grateful for the opportunity to serve more advanced civilizations." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. "We are aware of your assessment of our capabilities," Chen replied evenly. "I am here to inform you that this assessment is incomplete." The Viridian Ambassador, a floating orb of gaseous consciousness, pulsed with mocking light patterns. "We have studied your species for centuries, human. Your development has been predictable. Your military capabilities are cataloged and deemed inconsequential." Chen's eyes scanned the room slowly. "And yet, despite your supposed knowledge, not once did any of your observers detect our preparations." A moment of confused silence followed. "Preparations?" asked Volith, his head tilting slightly. Chen nodded. "Humanity has been aware of alien observation since your first probes reached our system in 1947. We understood that in this galaxy, weakness invites predation. So while you watched our public space programs and military developments, you missed what we were building beneath the surface, literally and figuratively." She tapped her wrist device, and the holographic display of Earth changed. The continents became transparent, revealing vast underground facilities. The oceans parted to show massive submerged shipyards. Earth's moon rotated to display weapon systems embedded in its far side. "This is barely 1% of what we've constructed," Chen said quietly. "We hope to reveal ourselves gradually, to join your community as equals." Today's vote has changed that timeline. The assembly erupted in disbelieving shouts and accusations. "Fabrications," roared Grakthar. "Primitive deception," chittered the Arachnoid Collective. Speaker Volith slammed his staff 3 times. "Order. This display means nothing without verification. The vote will proceed as scheduled." Chen shut down the hologram with a flick of her wrist. "As you wish. But understand this. If you vote to enslave Earth today, you will face the consequences tomorrow." The voting commenced immediately. One by one, the major powers registered their decisions. The Arcturian hegemony, Enslave. The Krell Empire, Enslave. The Viridian consciousness, Enslave. The pattern continued unbroken through nearly 300 delegations, when the final tally appeared -298 votes for enslavement, 0 against, 5 abstentions. Speaker Volith turned toward Ambassador Chen. The Assembly has spoken. Earth is now under protected resource status. Compliance fleets will arrive at your system within 1 standard month. Your world will be divided into administrative sectors, and population centers will be assessed for labor potential. Chen's response was barely above a whisper, but somehow it carried to every corner of the vast chamber. You should have listened. Without another word, she turned and walked from the platform. The human delegation's transponders went dark simultaneously across the assembly station. By the time security forces reached the human docking bay, their ships had already departed. Vanishing from tracking systems with technology the Assembly's experts had believed impossible for humans to possess. 3 weeks later, the first wave of the compliance fleet appeared at the edge of the Sol system. 500 warships from 20 different species formed the vanguard of what would become the largest peacekeeping force ever assembled. Admiral Zex Talon of the Krell commanded from the dreadnought Inevitable Dominion. His carapace gleamed under the bridge lights as he studied the tactical display showing the fleet's approach toward the inner planets. Any response to our ultimatum? He asked his communications officer. None, Admiral. All standard frequencies remain silent. Zex Talon clicked his mandibles in amusement. They sulk like larvae, typical of primitive species when faced with superior force. The fleet passed Neptune's orbit without incident. Then Jupiter's. When they reached the asteroid belt, sensors detected movement. Admiral, the tactical officer reported, we're tracking multiple small objects emerging from the belt. Identification. Unknown, sir. They appear to be missiles of some kind, but the metallurgical composition is unfamiliar. Zex Talon straightened. Defensive posture. Activate countermeasures. Before the order could be implemented, the unidentified objects accelerated to impossible speeds. They struck a dozen ships simultaneously, passing through advanced shields as if they weren't there. The vessels didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, leaving behind clouds of rapidly cooling particles. What in the name of the first egg was that? Zex Talon roared. More objects were appearing now, not just from the asteroid belt, but from concealed positions near Mars' moons and from what had appeared to be dormant satellites. The compliance fleet's formation disintegrated as captains took evasive action against weapons that their systems could barely detect, much less counter. A transmission cut through the chaos, broadcasting across all channels. A human voice, calm and precise. This is Admiral Helena Reyes of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has entered a quarantine zone established by Emergency Protocol 773. You have violated Earth's sovereignty and ignored our final warning. There will not be another. On the view screen, a massive shape emerged from behind Earth's moon, a warship that dwarfed even the Inevitable Dominion. Its hull seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it, creating the impression of a moving void in space. Behind it came others, dozens at first, then hundreds. Impossible, whispered Zex Talon's executive officer. Our intelligence indicated they had no capital ships. Your intelligence was deliberately missiled, Admiral Rice continued. For a century, we have hidden our true capabilities while studying yours. We diverted 80% of our global resources into defense preparations while showing you only our civilian technologies. You believed us weak because we allowed it. The human vessels moved with precision that suggested advanced automation or artificial intelligence, technology supposedly beyond human capability. They systematically targeted the largest ships in the compliance fleet, destroying them with weapons that seemed to violate the known laws of physics. Zex Talon watched in horror as his command was reduced to chaos in minutes, His mandibles clicked rapidly in distress as he ordered, "Emergency retreat. All vessels, emergency retreat protocols." Less than half of the compliance fleet managed to escape the Sol system. The inevitable Dominion was not among them. The Grand Assembly convened an emergency session 2 days later. Gone was the casual arrogance that had permeated the enslavement vote. Now delegates spoke in hushed, frightened tones as reports continued to arrive of human warships appearing in systems that should have been beyond their reach. Speaker Volith looked aged, his scales dulled by stress. The human counterattack has begun. They have destroyed outposts in 7 systems and disabled the defensive grids of 3 colony worlds. Yet they have not harmed civilian populations. They leave behind only a message. The vote has consequences. Supreme Commander Grakthar, one of the loudest voices for Earth's enslavement, pounded his armored fist on the podium. We must respond with overwhelming force. Mobilize the combined fleets of all member species. We will crush these upstarts. The Viridian ambassador's orb darkened skeptically. With what technology, Commander? Our best ships were turned to dust. Our most advanced shields were useless. The humans have weapons we don't understand. How? Demanded an Arcturian counselor. How could they have developed such technology in secret? The answer came from an unexpected source. A small, previously silent delegation from the Observational Sciences Guild approached the center floor. "We may have an explanation," said the lead scientist, a Centaurian with delicate blue skin. "We've been analyzing fragments from the battle. The human weapons don't appear to be developed from known scientific principles. They appear to be adapted." "Adapted from what?" asked Volith. The scientist hesitated. "From the 13 precursor civilizations that vanished over the last 1,000,000 years. The humans have somehow recovered and reverse-engineered technologies we believed lost forever." Stunned silence fell over the assembly. "That's impossible," Volith finally said. "Those sites are either destroyed or under strict quarantine." "Nevertheless," the scientist replied, "the evidence suggests the humans have been systematically exploring restricted ruins across the galaxy, likely using stealth vessels our patrols couldn't detect. While we dismissed them as a minor species, they were recovering the most powerful technologies ever created." As the implications sank in, a new transmission appeared on the assembly's main viewer. Ambassador Chen's face filled the screen, her expression as composed as ever. "Honored representatives," she began, her tone formal but cold. "Earth's Defense Council has authorized me to inform you that Phase 1 of our response is complete. We have demonstrated our capability and resolve. Phase 2 begins tomorrow." Grakthar snarled. "More threats, human. Your victory was a fluke." Chen's eyes shifted to the Krell commander. "Not threats, Supreme Commander. Facts. By this time tomorrow, every military shipyard that contributed vessels to the compliance fleet will cease to exist. The day after, we will neutralize the homeworld defenses of the 10 species who led the vote against us." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "You voted unanimously to enslave us. We have voted unanimously to show you exactly why that was a mistake." The transmission ended, leaving the assembly in terrified silence. The vote that was meant to subjugate humanity had instead unleashed something far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. A species that had spent nearly a century preparing for this very day, armed with technologies the galaxy had thought lost forever, and driven by the righteous anger of those who had been betrayed. And this was only the beginning. The reckoning and redemption. True to Ambassador Chen's word, the next day brought devastation across the galaxy. With surgical precision, Earth's Shadow Fleet struck 27 major shipyards simultaneously. They didn't bombard from orbit or launch conventional attacks. Instead, specialized teams deployed devices that simply erased matter within specific boundaries. Massive construction facilities vanished, leaving behind perfect hemispheric voids where once stood the pride of galactic engineering. Not a single civilian was harmed. Workers reported being evacuated by automated systems minutes before the attacks. Messages left behind were always the same. The vote has consequences. In the Assembly's Emergency Command Center, representatives watched in helpless horror as reports flooded in. The Krell Empire had lost its 3 primary fleet production facilities. The Arcturian hegemony's famous orbital forges were gone. The Viridian defensive platform network had been disabled with technology that somehow phased through their quantum barriers. "This is beyond warfare," whispered an aide to Speaker Volith. "This is godlike." The speaker, once the most powerful political figure in the galaxy, now looked diminished. Where are they getting these capabilities? Even the precursor technologies shouldn't allow for this level of precision and coordination. A new figure entered the command center. General Torlak of the Centaurian Defense Corps, one of the few military leaders who had advocated caution regarding Earth. His long blue fingers tapped a series of commands, bringing up a new holographic display. "We've been analyzing their attack patterns," he announced. "They're not random. They're methodical. Each target corresponds exactly to facilities that would have been involved in Earth's subjugation. They're sending a message. That they can destroy us all," spat Grakthar. "No," Torlak replied quietly. "That they could destroy us all, but are choosing not to. Notice what they haven't attacked. Civilian infrastructure, colonial worlds, agricultural centers. They're dismantling our military capabilities while leaving our societies intact." Speaker Volith's primary eyes narrowed. "You sound almost admiring, General. I'm being realistic. If the humans wanted us extinct, we would be already." As if summoned by these words, communication systems throughout the center suddenly activated. Ambassador Chen appeared on every screen simultaneously. "The shipyards are gone," she stated without preamble. "Tomorrow, we neutralize planetary defenses of the primary voters. After that, we will begin Phase 3, unless you are prepared to negotiate." For the first time, murmurs of hope rippled through the command center. "Negotiate." Volith stepped forward. "What terms would Earth consider?" Chen's expression remained impassive. "Unconditional reversal of the enslavement vote, full recognition of Earth and its colonies as a sovereign power, reparations for the attempted invasion, and," she paused, "a complete restructuring of the Assembly to prevent future predation against emerging species." Grakthar slammed his fist down. "Absurd. You demand our surrender." "No, Commander. We demand justice. You have 8 hours to begin formal negotiations. After that, Phase 2 continues." The transmission ended. The Assembly exploded into arguments, but underneath the chaos, a new sentiment was forming. Perhaps negotiation was the only rational choice. Admiral Ileana Harper stood on the bridge of the EDF Reckoning, Earth's flagship and the most powerful warship humans had ever built. Through the view screen, she watched as her fleet maintained position near Proxima Station, once the Assembly's premier military coordination center, now under Earth's control. "Admiral," her executive officer reported, "the diplomatic shuttle from the Assembly is approaching. Sensors confirm 6 delegates aboard, as agreed." Harper nodded. At 48, she had spent 30 years in Earth's hidden space program, training for a war she had hoped would never come. Her silver-streaked black hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her weathered face showing the strain of the past week. "Escort them to the negotiation chamber. Full security protocols." As the delegates were brought aboard, Harper studied the tactical display. Earth forces now controlled key strategic points throughout the galaxy. The element of surprise had given them an overwhelming advantage, but she knew it wouldn't last forever. Some species were already adapting to their technologies, developing countermeasures. If a real galactic war ignited, billions would die on all sides. That could not be allowed to happen. The negotiation chamber was austere by Assembly standards, a simple circular room with a round table and chairs adjusted for various physiologies. Harper entered to find Ambassador Chen already seated opposite the 6 delegates, Speaker Volith, Supreme Commander Grakthar, the Viridian Ambassador, General Torlak, and representatives from 2 minor species that had abstained from the original vote. Admiral Harper, Chen nodded. Our guests were just explaining their position, which is, Harper took her seat. Speaker Volith's scales had faded to a dull gray. We are prepared to reverse the vote and recognize Earth's sovereignty. The reparations can be negotiated, but restructuring the entire assembly is beyond our authority. Harper studied the aliens carefully. You still don't understand. You no longer dictate terms. The assembly as it exists is fundamentally flawed. It operates on predation rather than cooperation. That ends today. You would destroy a system that has maintained order for 10,000 years. Grakthar demanded. A system that voted unanimously to enslave an entire species. Harper countered. Yes, without hesitation. The Viridian pulsed with agitation. What alternative do you propose? Chen activated a holographic display showing a new organizational structure, a council of equals. No species may hold permanent power. Military action requires genuine consensus, not political maneuvering. And most importantly, a Bill of Rights that applies to all sentient beings, including those from pre-FTL civilizations. Impossible. Grakthar scoffed. Many species would never accept such restrictions. They will, Harper said simply, because the alternative is watching their military capabilities disappear overnight. We've already demonstrated that capability. General Torlak, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. May I ask a question, Admiral? You've shown power beyond anything we've seen. You could rule the galaxy. Why seek a council of equals instead? It was the question Harper had been waiting for. Her expression softened slightly. Because that was always our goal. Humanity doesn't want to rule. We want to live. The weapons we've developed, the precursor technologies we've recovered, they were always meant as a shield, not a sword. She stood and walked to a wall panel, activating another display. It showed images from Earth's history, wars, genocide, environmental disasters. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times before we reached the stars. We learned the hard way that power without wisdom leads to extinction. When we discovered we weren't alone in the universe, we hoped for mentors and found predators instead. She turned back to face the delegates. So we prepared. We studied. We built in secret, not to conquer, but to ensure that humanity would never be subjugated again. A moment of silence followed as her words sank in. And if we refuse your terms? Volith finally asked. Harper's voice became steel again. Then Phase 3 begins. We disable every major military vessel in assembly space. After that, Phase 4. We release all precursor technology we've recovered to every species simultaneously. The resulting chaos would end the assembly by default. The delegates exchanged alarmed glances. Releasing such advanced technology indiscriminately would shatter the power balance overnight. You would risk galactic civil war. Grakthar asked incredulously. We would force evolution, Chen corrected. But we prefer a more controlled transition. General Torlak surprised everyone by suddenly standing. I support the human proposal. Traitor, hissed Grakthar. Realist, Torlak countered. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they offer partnership. I study human history since this began. They are dangerous, yes, but also capable of remarkable compassion and innovation. I believe their council of equals could work. One by one, the minor species representatives also stood in support. The Viridian's ord shifted to a color indicating reluctant acceptance. Only Volith and Grakthar remained opposed. 2 days, Harper announced. You have 2 days to begin implementation of these reforms. After that, we proceed to Phase 3. As the delegates were escorted back to their shuttle, Chen remained behind with Harper. They'll agree, Chen said quietly. Self-preservation will drive them. Harper nodded slowly. And then the real work begins. Having the power to enforce peace isn't the same as creating it, Chen agreed. We'll need to prove that our model works better than theirs. Harper gazed out at the stars visible through the viewport. A century of preparation for war. Now we need to prepare for peace. I'm not sure which is harder. 3 months later, the newly formed Galactic Council of Sentient Rights convened its first session. The chamber was different. Gone was the hierarchical arrangement of the old assembly. Now representatives sat in concentric circles, with no position granting greater status than another. Ambassador Chen, now elevated to Earth's counselor, took her place in the outer ring alongside representatives from nearly 400 worlds. At the center, a rotating panel of 7 species would serve as facilitators, chosen by lot and changing monthly to prevent power consolidation. The first act of the new council was to formally rescind all claims against Earth and to issue a galaxy-wide apology for the attempted subjugation. The second was to establish the Sentient Rights Charter, guaranteeing basic protections to all intelligent species, regardless of their technological development. Not everyone embraced the new order. The Krell Empire withdrew from proceedings in protest, as did several other militant species. But when Earth demonstrated its commitment to the new system by publicly dismantling 70% of its advanced weapon systems, while maintaining enough to ensure the charter would be respected, many skeptics began to reconsider. On the 1-year anniversary of the vote that had nearly led to war, Councillor Chen stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new headquarters of the Galactic Council, watching ships from dozens of worlds moving peacefully through the local space. General Torlak, now the Centaurian representative, joined her. A remarkable year, he observed. Trade has increased 30%. 3 previously isolated species have joined the council. Even the Krell are beginning negotiations to return. Chen nodded. The transition hasn't been perfect. There have been adjustments. There always are when power shifts, Torlak acknowledged. But I must ask, something has bothered me since our first meeting. How did humanity truly develop such advanced technology? The precursor ruins don't fully explain it. Chen smiled slightly. We had help. From whom? The 13th precursor civilization, the only one that didn't actually vanish. They merely went quiet, watching. They found us worthy of their knowledge after observing how we handled our own near extinctions. Torlak's eyes widened. They still exist. Where? Chen's smile deepened. Perhaps you'll meet them someday. They're considering joining the council now that it operates on principles they can respect. As they spoke, a notification appeared on Chen's communications device. Another species had just made first contact with the council's welcome team. A young civilization from a system near the galactic core, just beginning to explore beyond their solar system. Excuse me, General, Chen said. It seems we have new neighbors to greet. As she walked away, Chen reflected on the irony. 1 year ago, the Assembly had voted unanimously to enslave Earth, believing humans to be weak and primitive. That vote had nearly led to their destruction. Now, that same misguided action had instead created something remarkable. A galactic community built on respect rather than fear, on cooperation rather than predation. The vote had indeed had consequences, just not the ones anyone had expected. In her office later that day, Chen sent a secure message to Admiral Harper, who was overseeing the training of the Council's new peacekeeping force. The 13th precursor story worked perfectly, she wrote. They'll be searching for signs of that civilization for decades. Meanwhile, we continue as planned, helping emerging species, reforming the power structures, and ensuring no one ever again faces what we faced. Harper's reply was brief. Good. The best shield is one you never have to raise. They feared us when we showed our strength. They'll respect us when we show our wisdom. Chen couldn't have put it better herself. The species that had once voted unanimously to enslave Earth now worked alongside humans to build something better than conquest, a future where such votes would never happen again. That was the greatest victory of all.